Hello Shape enthusiasts and welcome back to another episode of Shapes 2 in our insane factory. We are very close to finishing the last tasks. They are taking quite a long time because all the crystals that we're trying to make have to be pieced together from quarters. This shape, at the moment, we had it easy, right? There's two bits that are crystal, so we've been making this quarter, we've been making this quarter, and we've been just dropping this shape on top of it as like an entire shape because it's mostly just diagonal bits, right? See, we can just drop that on because it's got no crystals. But we can't do that anymore for the next iteration of this shape because of this stupid little gap right here. Because of this gap, we're going to have to build this shape from quarters again, but have a shatterable crystal in the middle. But once we shatter it, we need to make sure there's a bit over here that holds it up. So we're going to need to mold this shape properly. I believe that crystal shape is being produced over here at the moment. So we'll just make those modifications. So let's look at what's currently being produced. We've got the blue bottom followed by the yellow bit, but now the yellow bit is no longer a crystal. So we can get rid of this. And now this mold that's coming out of here, we got to modify a little bit because we want essentially, since the bit's being created in the top right, I might just rotate all of this so that I know what I'm working with. So essentially what we want to do is rotate this 90 degrees. So that way the mold hole is in the top right where we want to produce our shape, just to not confuse us. Now the bit that holds up the scaffold needs to be here. So that means the crystal needs to be here. That means I need the mold over here to be cut away. So I actually don't need to rotate this yet. What I really need to do is half destroy it first, then rotate it 180 degrees to get the mold into the right position. Now that should get us the right mold. I can put in the crystal. So here it's putting in the blue bit, which will be fine. I'm going to put a bin in here so I know what the heck's going on. Just going to flush this one out. The blue bit also needs to change where it's going because currently it's coming out on the bottom right. We need it to be on the top right, so we need to rotate that counterclockwise 90 instead. And if we just flush out this section, well, it'll flush itself out at some point, but we'll give it a hand. So this mold looks a little bit funny, but you'll just have to trust that it's correct. Okay, we've got some shapes coming out. So now we can see what's going on. Obviously my mold is in the wrong orientation. So actually go up here. This should be the 3/4 mold, but it should be on the bottom. All right, so I just need to rotate what order this is happening in. It's gonna let that correct itself first. Okay, so now the 3/4 bit should be on the bottom and the half bit should be on top. If you're enjoying the video and you want to support DataEngineerPlays, don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comment section. So here we can confirm that is indeed the mold that we want. Now we're going to drop in this quarter crystal part. So the quarter blue circle part, and that should be okay. So now we're ready to crystal make this. I'm going to get rid of all of this because that's all going to change now. So let's chuck in our crystal maker in here instead. And instead of the yellow coming through here, we want white now. So it's a white crystal. This was painting the bit white. We don't need to paint anything white anymore, so we can just get rid of this and redirect this white. Along the other direction now, and plug it in here instead of the yellow. We will flush this belt. This yellow is no longer being used temporarily. And what's happening with this blue? The blue is being used. That's good. So let's connect that belt of color, and that should get me my white crystal part on top. Oh wait, no, sorry. Before there's a white crystal part, there's a yellow circle first. So we still do need the yellow, and then we need the white. I might just fix that up. Actually, this is fine. We need the yellow coming out sort of like somewhere else. It's still a yellow circle, so we can still paint that yellow circle bit that we need. But we got to put the yellow circle on before we crystal make it. So let's get rid of this thing. I don't think we need the white circle anymore. So theoretically, this should make yellow quarter circles. It's in the bottom right, so let's get that rotated properly. Counterclockwise 90, and get that dropped onto here. Just do it like this. Oh wait, sorry. I'm confusing myself. We do need a crystal maker here. It just doesn't need to be white. It can just be any arbitrary color. Let me get rid of this white belt for now, because it's kind of in the way of everything. Now, with an arbitrary color, which one are we using? We're using 5 greens, 2 reds. Probably red would be the best arbitrary color. So the red bit is what we're going to cut away to make that second empty layer. And once we've got the red bit, then we can put the yellow bit on top of it. So then we'll have our third layer. And now we need a mold. So someone told me cleverly to save on my molds. Why don't I just leave the yellow bit? So it's like less confusing, right? So instead of quarter destroying it, we can just leave the full circle. That way the other 3/4 of the circle will act as the mold, which will be our 4th layer. And then on the 5th layer, we just need an empty mold rotated into the top right corner. So to rotate that, we need this rotation happening. And then that's our mold piece, right? And that mold piece will then now need to stack on top with this on the bottom. Something like that. So that should get us our molded bit. And with our molded bit, we can now add in the white crystal bit. So we'll have to get another crystal maker. Now we need our white. Like that. That should get us our white crystal. And then on top is this thing, but it's now green instead of cyan. So let's grab our green. And let's just chuck that in there. Fantastic. Now when that comes out, we need to then just stack that on top. It doesn't need a mold or anything like that. So what I'll do is just grab a stacker. This is going to be on top. That's going to be on the bottom. Remember, we can't drop crystal layers. Well, it's the wrong order anyway. So let's see what the heck we're making with all this craziness. So here we can see it's correct. We've got the shatterable bit, and then we've got this bit, right? And now we're going to stack the mold on top. So hopefully it'll be the same bit, just with an empty mold part on top. The heck is that? Did I put a half destroyer on here instead of a rotator? That needs to be a clockwise rotator. Just delete that. When that comes through, we'll make sure that's working. While we're waiting for that, we can work on some other bits of the shape. So the bottom bit of the shape is pretty much the same as what we're currently producing, except the yellow bit is now a red bit. So we're just changing the color on this again. So we don't need this. What we do need is this red to connect to there. Oh, careful. We don't want to delete the entire belt of color. We've learned that lesson the hard way. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to flush just... Oh, wait, no. Highlight this, and then press... Oh, no, I. Oh my god. How many times is it going to do this? Yep, so that flushes the yellow out, because there's too much yellow on the belt. And that should make this bottom left part red, and that's all good. So let's check back on here to see if it's correct now. With the mold part coming out correct, theoretically what should come out of here is a space ready for the white crystal. So once it comes through the white crystal portion, we should get the white crystal portion, and then on top of the white crystal portion, this thing should be in the top right. We need to give that a rotate. Counterclockwise. Gonna put a bin in here just to make sure everything is functioning correctly. flush out the old crap. So that'll do that, and that will do that. But now we need to attach something onto this, because we're going to cut away this part to shatter the crystal. But once you shatter the crystal without anything holding it up, this 3 layers will fall down into this hole. So we need to create this part, which is just a blue square and then an uppity on this thing. It's basically this shape, but unfortunately I don't have a thing that can cut this into 2 different shapes. So I'm gonna have to piece this together from quarters, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not anything we can't do. So here we have our shape. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this shape. We're gonna paint it cyan. You know what? Because the other bit of this shape's gonna be on the other side, we're just gonna make it from quarters. I don't really care. Shapes and colors is not gonna be an issue. I think we've got a cyan belt here that we're not really even using. Oh no, we are using. That's fine. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Why do things the hard way when you can do it the easy way? So that's a rotator. It's going to rotate it into the top right. We want it now on the top left. So we're going to rotate the square counterclockwise 90. Then we're going to bring in our quarter destroyer. We're going to get a wedge. Then we're going to paint that wedge cyan. Just like that. That'll get our cyan wedge, and the wedge will be in the bottom right, so we need to get it to the top left, which is a 180-degree rotation. And now we can stack these together, but the wedge needs to be pin pushed, so we'll get our pin pusher out. And then we'll get our stacker. And the wedge is on top, and this blue thing is on the bottom. So theoretically, that should get our bit of shape on this side, and that bit of shape should perfectly hold up this bit of shape. So now we can have a look at if this is correct, and now we need to cut it down to size. So we need to rotate it and half destroy. So we need to rotate it like that, and when we half destroy it, we should get the shape that we want and the gap in the middle. A clockwise rotation followed by a half destroy will get us what we need. Let's get rid of this crap. Then we can now take this shape and replace it. So we need to rotate it back into position. So what we're getting over here is this on the right half. So now we need to... Oh no, I've done it wrong. Okay, I've done it wrong because the bit that's holding it up is in the way of where I want to put it, but I can put that same piece down the bottom because it's the same piece, right? Yeah, it's the same piece. That's fine. So let's assume that's there. Then that piece needs to be down the bottom, so it needs to be here. Let's put that piece there. It's currently there. Up the top left, it needs to be the bottom left, so that's a counterclockwise 90. Now in theory, if we just swap these two together, this is always a little bit mind-bendy for me, but when we swap these two together, we should get the half shape that we want. Now we need to do the same thing on the other side, so I'm going to copy this and just plop that. We'll just do it down here, I suppose, because my quarter thingy is in the way. That's fine. This cyan belt's going to take a long trip somewhere. It's going to take a long trip around the back here and join with this cyan belt. That way we get 3 belts of cyan over here, and now we can paint the cyan into the appropriate place. So we do need a wedge. We're going to bring a wedge from here to there, and then we got to bring this quarter shape, which is right here. We'll just go underneath as well, just in case I need the top space. Then we just need to bring the cyan. around this side. And in theory, that should get us exactly the same shape as this. And it's going to be in the bottom left corner. And we need to join it with this shape. So this shape, once cut out, is on the bottom right. So it's here. That means we need to put this shape on the bottom left. And we can tell from here that it already comes out on the bottom left. So in theory, we should just be able to swap these two in together. And that should get us our other half of the shape. And now we just need to piece these two halves together. Let's see this half that we're getting is correct. Yes, we've got the overhang bit and it's sort of hanging in there. Now we just need to rotate this counterclockwise and cut it into shape. Once you wrap your head around the process of making these quarter crystal shapes, it all becomes a lot easier. And now this thing is going to be on the right hand side, and this thing is going to be on, I have no idea, on the top? No, on the bottom. So it needs to be on the left hand side. So theoretically that should be a clockwise 90-degree rotation. And then we should be able to chuck that in there. And this should just be the final shape that we want to deliver, I hope. It's on the bottom left, that's on the bottom right. And then once we rotate that to the left-hand side, I'm hoping that that is all correct. It's looking correct to me, but we'll check back in on that in a bit. Let's try to figure out what next thing we have to do for task number 30, break it till you make it. What has happened to my shape? Let's analyze this shape while we are. So we're currently making this. What has happened? Everything on the bottom has just become a pin. And then everything else is the same. How does that change what I'm trying to do here? I think that should be a reasonably easy modification, right? It can't be that hard. Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. Nothing else has really changed. We just need to keep this one half of it. And then for everything else that hasn't changed, we just got to replace the bottom part, which was a crystal process, with pins. There's no easy way to replace it with pins. It might be a really hard change, but we'll have to see. Let's just validate this shape before we go and do that. Something's coming out. Is this correct? It looks correct to me. Does that look correct to you guys? Something's red, but it's not red. The last of the yellows are getting flushing out at the moment, but then they will become red. All right, fantastic. I have faith this is the correct shape, so let's get working on the harder bits. Over at staging 3, I believe this is what we're doing. So it's making this old shape, but we need to modify it so that pins exist. So which part is making the right thing of this? Because this half over here, trying to pick one, is mostly correct, right? Because that's making that bottom bit. But that top bit here needs to be modified. Let's see how we do that modification. So essentially we still want the same thing, but instead of a crystal layer, it's just a pin. So what if we just don't do the crystalling part? And then just bring this straight into a stacker. So there's no more crystalling portion. What does that give us? That should just give us 2 stacked up molds, right? And then to those 2 stacked up molds, we just need this quarter shape, but now it needs to be pinned up. Oh, I see the problem. Okay, so if you pin this up, then how do you put the green crystal on? Because once you put the green crystal on, so you have to make this whole shape first and then pin it up at the very end. Okay. So basically pretend this is not a 5-layer shape. The order really matters here because you can't pin this up first, then put the green crystal on at the end because it'll fill in the pin. So let's pretend this is a 4-layer shape and this is the bottom layer. What are we even trying to make here? We're trying to make this part, right? So pretending this is the bottom layer, then we just need one less of this, essentially, I think. And then we're gonna put it through the red crystal bit. So that'll make the bottom layer, that'll make the half mold, then it'll be the red crystal, then it will add on another mold, then it will add on another mold, it'll add the white bit in there, and then it'll be green crystal, and theoretically we should be able to just cut into quarters and then pin that up. That's not too difficult of a change. Let's let that run for a bit. I'm just going to cut this and then we'll bin it and we'll let that run. So that sorts out this bottom part. On this other side, it's exactly the same process, but we can make it from halves now, I think. Right? Because we're making this. Let's just ensure we're making this, because I don't see why we can't make this from a half shape, unless the final iteration is then forcing us back to quarters. Okay, so the final iteration forces us back into quarters. So we can't just do it from halves, we'll just do it from quarters again, even though we could very easily make this other half shape from halves. So we're making this at the moment, we need to make this. But it's a very straightforward process because it's just the same shape twice, first of all. So whatever we do, we just duplicate it. And I feel like we can just make it very easily. We can go double mold, crystal, and then, yeah. So I believe we need to destroy everything that we've done here. Carefully, because there's a train station in there. Has this come out yet? Let's have a look if this is correct. Yeah, that looks correct. Everything's being held up. It's got the white circle on top. Where's my green crystal portion though? Something's wrong. The green crystal portion isn't crystalline. It is. But that's the old shape. Where's my new shape? Something is still wrong here. Let me troubleshoot it. I think this is the new shape. There's 2 bits of red crystal. Okay, there's definitely something wrong. Let's see what's happening at the red crystal area. There's still only 1 bit of red crystal. Then on top of the red crystal, which is that blank, we need the white circle. I assume this is rotating it into position. And then that's getting us the white circle on, but why is there another red crystal? What's happened? I think it's some of the old shape is still being flushed, that's why. Just gotta be patiently waiting. That's the shape we want. 1 white circle and leaving space for the green thing. I think that will be correct. So let's start working on this side of things. I'm gonna just cut away my color makers because I don't know what colors I need anymore. Alright, let's do it. So we're trying to make the top 2 quarters of this shape. So we're going to ignore the pins. The bottom layer is just a quarter of this thing. So we need 2 molds. Our mold shape is going to be this belt. 1. Let's chuck it into a stacker. Like this. Put it on the right level though. Okay, so we've got our stacked shape. The hole for our mold is on the bottom left, so we're just working the bottom left. Onto that, we need to put our first actual shape, which is a quarter of an emerald. Now, why am I doing everything really weird and janky? I don't like this. Let me fix this up. I've just suddenly decided to be crazy. Wouldn't this just be cleaner? Like that. Get our quarter destroyer. Wait, we don't need a quarter destroyer. We've already got our emerald shape as quarters over here. We just need to put on the bottom right. 180-degree rotation. And then we can just stack that in either way. That's not the hard part. The second real layer is the yellow crystal portion. So let's get a crystal maker. Let's get yellow going. Red and green makes yellow. Fantastic. So that gets us our yellow crystal portion. Then we need our white quarter circle, which is up here. And we need to put it into the bottom left. So it's a 180-degree rotation. Bring the belt in. Grab a stacker. And that's that. And our final layer is just a green crystal layer. So let's get our crystal maker in. Let's get our green. And pop that up. And that should make that. And before we do anything to that, we want to pin push it. Well, it doesn't matter whether we cut it or pin push it first. It will be the same result. So let's get our pin pusher in. And then let's rotate it to the top right and quarter cut it. So that's a 180-degree rotation. And then a quarter destroy. And then our other bit should be exactly the same process. So I'm just going to take the non-belt portions out of this. And then we're just going to make another one. And it intercepts the train perfectly. So I'll just do it here. And then we'll loop it back. Alright, so let's get the mold part in, or the scaffold. So we'll use this scaffold this time. I feel like I'm forgetting entire scaffolding parts of this process. Because we can't just crystal this, right? This doesn't make sense. We need to scaffold it twice at some point. After the crystal layer, we need to add the other two bits of the scaffold in. So there and there. 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 A bit messy, but should work. There we go. And now this should go over here. Now I should be able to copy this whole thing. And put that in here. Like that. And then we should be able to hook everything up. Now I'm going to get rid of this belt so I don't confuse myself. Now if we go down here, we should be able to connect the scaffold all up. This is just the quarter of this. Like that, I think. The yellow we got to make. Line it up with this. Like that. This part ain't flowing out properly because this part's not connected. Wait, something's wrong here. I just need to connect this part of the belt. That'll flow through. And then we need the green. Like that. Now, let's have a look at what this thing's actually producing. Nothing. This should be ready to make the green crystal. Yeah, which is correct. So that's correct. We'll see if this thing works. Nothing's coming out of this one. What goes into this belt? The white bit. So we'll go up and connect the white bit. So that should make the two bits that I need. Let's ensure this is now correct. That looks correct to me. Now it's on the bottom left. And this part is on the bottom right. So this output should give me what I want. And then if we rotate, like, it's basically going to give me that, right? No, we made that and that. This is done in the wrong order. Is that right? I'm so confused. So ignoring the top half, we've made this. We've made the bottom right quadrant. Which is that, right? That, and that. And this is the bottom left quadrant now. So we've got to make sure we swap this into the right order. Oh, can we swap this into the right order? No. Oh, no. We need this to... Because the scaffolding is on this side, we need to swap it with one of these quarters first. God. Annoying. Alright, don't worry about that. I've got to make sure this is coming out correct. Which it looks like it is. we need to put this, if that's on this half, then we need to put this half onto the bottom right, which it is. So now we can swap these two parts together. Otherwise our shape's going to be ordered very strangely. Or it'll be flipped, I should say. Yes, it's still confusing. Even when you know what you're doing, it's still confusing. So the other half is actually made from this and this. So if this is on the bottom left, oh, it's on the bottom right, we need to put the other half on the bottom left, I believe. Because if you look at what we've created here, let's just watch one instead of trying to estimate what we're trying to do. So if you look at what we've created here, we've basically made the right half of the shape. We've made this half of the shape. No. Is that right? Yes. So we've made this half of the shape. Now we need to make this half of the shape. So if this thing is in the bottom right and we want to make the left half of the shape, this thing needs to be on the bottom left. Oh my god, is there a better way of visualizing this? Bottom left. So we need to rotate this part 90 degrees clockwise. It's going to bring it under. Bring our swapper. Cool. So now with this thing scaffolded properly, we can cut away the bit we don't need because the actual bit we do need is scaffolding it properly. So we need to do a counterclockwise rotation and a half destroy. Just like that. And now in theory, these two bits should be the same. So let's see what orientation this is finally coming out at. It should be on the right half. And then we just need this bit on the left half. So it's on the bottom. So we need to clockwise rotate that 90. Then in theory, if we just swap these two together, we should get exactly what we need. And I made this super goofy and I still have another portion of the shape to do. So that's going to be a fun final modification to figure out. Because I don't even know which bit is creating which quarter of the shape anymore. But I'm sure there's going to be major modifications for the final bit. Now, let's just make sure this is piecing together correctly. Here is a shape. And that's looking very correct to me. See, I've got all the pins down the bottom now. Fantastic. All right, I trust this is the right shape. Let's go back to staging 1 and clear it out. We're done with all this crap. Clear out all this. Clear out all this. And clear that part out. I'm going to leave staging 1 because it's not been fully modified to do crystal shapes yet. We have fully modified another staging area to do crystal shapes properly. I think staging 2, nope, staging 4 has been readily modified to do crystal shapes because I've got all my scaffolded bits and all the holes of these scaffolded bits are in the right spot. So this is actually the perfect area to do staging shapes. I think I'll just start it from the top or the bottom. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'll just start it from up here. We might need to move the train station out of the way though, because let's face it, these crystal shapes take a lot of work to process. Alright, so we're going to work on this brand new shape now. So while this shape can be pieced together from halves, we are going to do this from halves because this thing can be done by halves all the way up to this shape. And then we're going to have to start again when we get to here because at this point we need to do everything by quarters. So there's no point doing everything by quarters here because it's just confusing. So let's just do the halves on this shape first. The bottom half is pretty easy. It's just a half square and then a mold. So we're going to need our squares. I'm going to bring a belt of squares for now. I'm just going to see in the first 3 shapes besides squares what else we need. We need circles and squares, and that's the only 2 shapes that we need. So there's the circles. There's the squares. And now we can start piecing it together. So we're focusing on the bottom half of this shape first. So the bottom half of the shape is just a square. So let's grab a square and let's, well, it's just a square. We don't need to do anything. To make the crystal part, we need a half square on top of that square. So let's get a half destroy. We don't even need to use our molds for this, but I guess we should, just in case we need more squares later. So we'll rotate our mold 180 degrees. Like this. Then we will half destroy that mold. Then we just need to stack it on top of a square. So let's get our stacker. And then let's just bring a square in. Like that. With that molded shape, we should now be able to add the blue crystal part. So if we get our crystal maker, and then we bring our blue, that should get us our bottom shape. Now we need to destroy it, but I don't know what orientation this is all going to come out at, so we'll worry about that in a bit. Now let's do the top half of this shape. The top half of this shape is very, very straightforward. It's just a blue half square. So I'm going to get a half destroyer. I'm going to leave some room between the two halves. And then we're going to get a painter. And then we're going to paint that square blue. Fantastic. Then, when we have our half blue square, we need to get our half red circle. So let's get a half destroyer again. Let's get a circle. Get a painter. Let's get red. So there's our blue squares, red circles. Our red circle pins up 1, 2, 3 times. Get our pin pusher 1, 2, 3 times. Get our stacker. Give that a flip. Put the squares on the bottom, the circles on top, and that should get our top half of the shape. Now, what orientation is this thing coming out of? The bit that we care about is on the left side. So before we half destroy the bit we don't care about, we need to give it a 180 degree rotation. Then we can half destroy, and that should get us just the bit we care about. Now, what is this bit coming out on? It's coming out on the right hand side. And this thing's going to be coming out on the right hand side. So we should just theoretically, let's just rotate everything into position. So this is the bottom half. So let's, wait, we can't rotate it into position because a swapper only goes left to right. So it doesn't matter which way we do this. They're both on the right half at the moment. So let's just get a swapper, or let's get a 180 degree rotation on, I don't know, arbitrary, this one. Let's get our swapper out. And let's bring them into the swapper. And that should be our final shape to be delivered to the train station. The train station's super far away for now, but I'm sure we're going to use up all this room before long. Fantastic. So that shape is being delivered now, and it's almost done. While we're waiting, we could redo some of our staging areas, because how many more tasks do we have to do? Our next task involves a bunch of circles, like so many circles. Are they all half circles? Not really. There's like a full circle somewhere here. Does it need to be done from quarters? Yes, because the crystal layer is here and here, although there's no gaps. So can we not just make this part of the shape normally? I feel like we can just make this first shape normally, but I'm sure that's going to change real quick. And then this is just a normal circle shape. And then at this point, we have to start piecing it together from quarters because we've got some gaps underneath this part. So many circles required. And then this shape, we could just make normally. Well, this is such a weird shape. And then this we have to go back to making it from quarters because again, there's crystals on top of gaps. Okay, so given that is the case, we might not even need to change our staging area very much. We can just use this staging area because it's just a billion circles, right? This has no gaps, so we can just make it normally. I don't understand. Cut reconfiguration. Is this meant to be teaching us something weird to do with this shape? I have no idea, but let's just make what we can normally. So the first layer of this, why did this deliver a bunch but then stopped suddenly? Did something happen to this staging area? I feel like it's just been stuck on 9,000 shapes. But no, it's fine, right? I'm not going insane. Focus back onto this shape. All right, circles. So the first layer is just a half circle. So let's just bring a half destroy. Bring a circles. Bring a crystal maker. Get ourselves a color mixer. Make magenta. Bring it down. There we go. That's our first bit of half circles done, and it's already oriented correctly. Our second bit of the shape is just a square. Sorry, it's just a full circle. So we just need a stacker. Like this. And then just bring a full circle. Okay, that's easy. Then our third bit of the shape is a half circle again. So we're going to get a half destroyer. We're going to get a circle. Now we've got to put this on there properly before we put the crystal process. So we need to put the circle on top. It's currently on the right. So we need to counterclockwise rotate that. Then we can stack this on. And then we can put it through a crystal maker. And in theory, it should be red. Well, in practice, it's red also. Then the next layer is once again just a circle. So let's just put just the circle in. That's on the bottom. The circle goes on top. And then our final layer is a half destroy again on the circle. Then we need to rotate it to the other side, so 180 degrees. Then we put it, then we stack it on first. So let's put that stacker on. Then we put it through another crystal maker, and it's yellow this time. So we need a color mixer. And red and green makes yellow. Bring that down, hook it into the crystal maker. And theoretically, this should be our final shape. Nice and easy for some weird reason. It's like the calm before the storm, right? Giving us a deceptively easy shape to make, unless there's something I've just obviously missed the trick on, but I don't think I have. So while that's doing its thing, let's focus on this shape, but let's just go back to staging 4 to just double check we're making this shape correctly and there's nothing weird and wonderful going on. That indeed looks like the shape I want to make. Okay, so it's just waiting to deliver. Nothing weird and wacky going on with our train, right? Because I did redo the train, so let's just make sure it's all happy. It's definitely got a rail path all the way home. One load is going. Fantastic. All right, let's try to finish off this shape then. What has happened to it? So let's look at it quadrant by quadrant. The bottom left quadrant has remained exactly the same. Pin yellow. Okay, so the yellow bit is gone. The yellow crystal bit in the middle here is gone. And then the top right is exactly the same. I feel like the top right is exactly the same. So it's exactly the same shape, but the two yellow bits in the middle are gone. So the modification we need to make in staging, not 2, in staging 3 is these two bits. So somehow this yellow crystal bit is now gone. So how do we do that? It's making this bit and this bit. So that's basically, let's just assume it's a 4-layer shape that will pin up at the very end. And because the yellow crystal layer is gone, we need to build this shape in a much more complicated way, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of both of these. It's going to change how we build it. It looks very similar, but by virtue of that yellow crystal layer being gone, it's going to change completely how we build those two bits of the shape. So I'm going to get rid of this and this. And then we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out using this layer because this is correct, right? This is the bottom left part of it. And the bottom left part, wait, has that changed? Why does the bottom left part need a gap? I'm confused. No, it doesn't need a gap. That is correct. Get rid of it. So yes, this is the bottom left part of the shape. Let's just rotate it to the bottom left so we know. Now we need to plan out with that bottom left of the shape, if we're going to make this part, the scaffold for this part needs to be on the top right. So let's make this part of the shape on the bottom right. And I'm going to do it directly out of the bottom right. So we're going to modify our scaffold as well. Or we can make the top left part of the shape as well. Like, it doesn't matter which one we do. We can do the top left part because the hole is in the bottom left. Ugh, it's so confusing. Because we're going to be very careful that we scaffold it. Like, say we're making this part, the hole is in the bottom left. We've got to make sure the scaffold then is on the top left because we're going to join it with this part of the shape, right? So our scaffold is in the top left. So the bottom part of the shape is just a quarter emerald into the scaffold. So here's our scaffold. I'm going to get rid of all of this so I don't confuse myself. We still need yellow, right? No, we don't need yellow anymore. Let's get rid of this as well. We just need green. Okay, so it's going to be in the bottom left. The scaffold's going to be in the top left. And we're ignoring the pin part. So let's start with a quarter emerald and a scaffold. So we've got the scaffold here, and let's get a stacker like this, and let's get our quarter emerald in, but we want to rotate it 180 degrees. Like that. Bring one of our scaffolds in, and that should get us our bottom layer. Our next layer is going to be a gap, so we need a half scaffold on the right. So if we get a half destroyer, say here, and then we put that into a stacker, like that, we can get our scaffold, and this portion's going to be on the bottom now. From here, we can now do the crystal making process. So we can get our crystal maker, and we're going to build the cuttable crystal part. So we're just going to use, well, red's being used a lot. Blue doesn't look like it's being used a lot. So our cuttable crystal portion will be blue. Like that. Let's see what that's making. Yep, so we've got our bit here, and then our crystal's going to be over here. Wait, no. That's our scaffold. Our crystal needs to go across this way. So we need to rotate the square before we put it on. The square needs to be in the top. I think this is the part that always confuses me. I might do this a bit cleaner, maybe? I don't know. Nah, I should be fine. Let's do it here, a bit cleaner, and we'll just pull the scaffold again. That way we can clean this up. Like that. And get the crystal back in position. And theoretically, that should now get the scaffold in the right spot, because again, we're making it like this. We want this part, but we want the scaffold existing here, so we need to cut away this part, so the crystal shattering needs to go across that way. So the blue crystal needs to lay along the bottom. That should get the blue crystal on the bottom, as I can see here. Now what do we need to do once the blue crystal is on the bottom? We need to put a white quarter circle on there, on the bottom right, left. Let's get a stacker in. Our white quarter crystal is right there, and that's going to go on top, and that's going to go on the bottom. I'll put it one more down so I can get the rotator just right here. To get it across, it's a 180 rotation. Like that. Then we've got the white bit there, and then we need another 2 scaffolds, and then we can put the green crystal on. So we've got to stack the scaffolds on like this and this. And then out of here we can add in the green crystal process. It looks really weird, but I think that'll get us the correct shape. I'm gonna put a bin here, and that should merge with this shape perfectly. So this is on the bottom left. If we then move this shape that we want to the bottom right, then we should be able to merge this and get what we need. Let's just verify that. So what's coming out of here? That's got the white bit on there now. And then through here, it should have 1 level of scaffold. Then on here, we should be getting the 2nd level of scaffold. Then it goes through the green crystal process. Gonna clean this up while I'm waiting, because no doubt we're gonna have to do this again. Here comes some shapes. Now we can observe whether that's correct. Looks correct to me. So now we can cut away the bits we don't want. So if we give that a 180-degree rotation and a half destroy, we'll end up with just the bit we do want held up by the scaffold on the right hand side. And that's on the left hand side. But that doesn't look quite right. No, it is right. What we need to do is rotate this to the top left before we merge it. So from here, it's a 180-degree rotation instead. And now let's watch the magic happen once I put the swapper in. So that's on the top right, that's on the top left. Now we've merged that together, and we've got to get rid of the bit that we don't want anymore, which is on the bottom. So let's rotate that clockwise. Then let's half destroy that. And let's see what we end up with. So if we rotate this back into position, what we've done is created the left half of the shape. Oh, we forgot a pin pushing process. This part needs to be pin pushed. Get a bin in. And let's just really make sure this is correct before we go on and duplicate this process, and then it's completely wrong. I think it's exactly the same. So these 2 shapes that are merging is making the top half. But if I want to make the bottom half of the shape, this part is exactly the same. We just got to merge it with this part, which is already being made. Is this part being made? Is that just this shape? That's not the right part of the shape. Let me think about that for a sec. So we're making this. We just need to make this. This is a very simple process. But it's not what we're currently doing. Why do I feel like I'm already making this part of the shape? That, and that. Pin push, that, white, and green. Isn't that just this? We're already making this. But I'm so confused. Alright. So if that's on the bottom, it's over here. We just need to make this part of the shape, which is very easy to make, right? It's just a quarter thing, scaffolded, crystal made, and then, yeah, I think that's correct. I'm not going insane, am I? So that makes this part of the shape. we've got the other bit. We just need the top right corner, which is just a very straightforward crystal shape. All right, let's make that then. I feel like I deleted the wrong part of my shape, but that's fine. As long as we get the final shape out at the end of the day, I don't care how confused I am while doing it. I might look like an idiot and talk like an idiot because this is super confusing, but that's fine. Let's get my scaffolding out. Then the bottom part is just the scaffolding plus that, so I'm going to do that. It's pretty much similar to this. So we'll get our quarter bit, and then we'll get our scaffolding in, and that's our bottom layer. We're looking at the top right, but we're making it on the bottom right. The next bit is just another scaffold. And in this case, it doesn't matter which order I do that scaffold in. Then I just need to crystal make that. And it needs to be yellow. I think what I did was I modified this shape in the most inefficient way possible. So that'll make the yellow part. On top of the yellow part just goes 2 scaffolds. So now we need to get the scaffolding in the right order, like this. Then from out here, we need to do some crystal making. So we need to stack on the white bit first. So let's grab a stacker. That's going to go on the bottom. The white bit's going to go on top, but we need to 180 it. Like that. Then once we've got the white bit, we need to put it through a crystal maker for the final bit, which is the green crystal. There we go. And now that should go nicely. Oh, let's go up and over then. Somewhere over here with this piece. But it needs to be pin pushed up as well. So let's do that. Let's get our pin pusher. There's nowhere to do it here. I'm just going to do it over here. It's fine. It's the last bit of the shape. I don't really care anymore. Alright, so that should be it. And obviously we need to process the quarters of this shape because it's not processed yet. But we'll pin push it and then we'll see where it's coming out and we'll process it accordingly. Make sure this part is correct. Yep, that's looking correct to me. But why is there a magenta crystal part? I'm making magenta. It's meant to be yellow. Flush that out. Alright, I'm going to let this run for a bit just to make sure it's correct while I still got my thought track. And then we've got to process the rest of this shape, stack it, and then stack it with this. And that should get us our final shape, I think. I realized I made a little bit of a mistake over here where I had this stacker oriented incorrectly. This has to be on the bottom and this has to be on top. Otherwise, my yellow crystal and thing is not going to be in the right spot. Before, the yellow crystal was underneath because I had the mold stacked the wrong way. But that's fine. That's all getting that through now. All of that is coming across here. So what we're trying to do is make the right half of this shape, and this yellow bit needs to be on the bottom right because this other bit that's coming here is on the bottom left. So we need to cut this into stuff that we can stack with this. So we need to rotate it and then half destroy it. So it's a counterclockwise rotation. And then a half destroy. And that should be on the right space, I think. And then in theory, we should just be able to swap that together and we should be done. Something like this. Hopefully that gets us the right shape. This shape is correct. If we look at this shape and we flip it around this way, we can see that's the left half of the shape. So hopefully we're producing the right half of the shape over here. We'll be able to see it once one comes through. Here it comes. So that should be this right half of the shape. It doesn't look quite right. Something's not pinned up. this bit's not pinned up. So this needs to be pin pushed up. And then we should be sweet. Here we go. We got some shapes coming through now. Now that looks correct. So that's the right half of the shape. And now we just need to cut away the bits we don't want to the top bit. So let's rotate it counterclockwise again. Let's half destroy that. And now the shape will be on the right half, and the shape here is on the right half. We can just rotate this one 180. Then let's get a swapper in. And in theory, that should get us the correct shape that we can deliver. What a process. It's not that bad. So we're looking for a single quarter crystal layer, then a full wedge, then a diagonal crystal layer, a white circle, and a green circle. Let's see if that's what we get. Here comes one. So we've got the crystal layer with the 3 pins underneath. Then we've got a full wedge, diagonal yellow circles, white circle, green circle, and voila. Just like that, that's our shape done. So that's going to deliver. And I think we've spent all 1 hour doing this damn shape. So I don't know if we want to do any more. The second one looks really easy to sort of do because it's just circles. Literally. Okay, sure. I mean, we can quickly do that in staging 1. Literally, there's like no more coloring at all. What we want to do is a full to 2 diagonals. Let me just clean out this thing. And then we'll call it an end of an episode after we quickly set up this shape. So we want to just bring a circles. And then we want to bring like another circles as a full to 2 diagonal. I'm going to do it here because the full to 2 diagonal is in an awkward spot. And that diagonal is going to be the right direction. So we'll get a stacker, that full circles on top. There's nothing tricky underneath, right? There's nothing weird or tricky. So we'll just get that in there. That's our first 2 layers. And then onto that, we're just stacking circles, basically. So we're going to get another circles. And then we're going to get another circles. And that should be all our circular layers. And then on there, we just need to stack the other diagonal bit. So we'll give that a 90 degrees rotation in any direction. And then we'll just put it into another stacker like that. And that's the simplest factory we've built since starting crystals. So that should get us the shape that we want. Let's just verify that, and then we'll call it the end of an episode. Out of all these complex crystal factories, it just throws this random shape at us. I know it's going to get more complicated, and that's the second last shape. Like, once we get to here, we're going to have to, because there's a crystal layer in the middle, we're going to have to actually make this from quarters, because all of this underneath is blank. So we're going to have to scaffold it and do all that fun stuff. But that's all right. We can make it half a shape at a time, I think, maybe. Yeah, I think we can make this half a shape at a time. Then from here, we are basically just doing this, but we can make this first because we can crystal underneath this first and then just stack normal shapes on top. So we might skip this shape, and then this shape, because the crystal layer is on the very, very top, we definitely need to do this from halves or something like that. We'd have to do this from quarters, actually. This one can be done from halves, I think. But this one can't. Can this be done from halves? No, it can't be done from halves because once you crystal something with nothing underneath it, it's gonna screw that up. Okay. But the shape coming out of here definitely looks like what we want to produce. So I think we're all good here. Everything else is good. We'll work on the rest of the tasks next episode. We've only got 2 tasks left, and then this really, what seems like an impossible task. But I'm sure we can figure this out from quarters somehow. Doesn't look that crazy. There's a crystal overhang on nothing over here, so obviously that's going to be the big challenge. But I'm sure we can figure it out. We know how to do crystal overhang on nothing. We basically just have to crystal on top of this green bit and then drop the green bit. Now, I'll leave it here this episode. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and sub, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.